Welcome back to Lead Between the Lines and the Powerline mini-series. We are now on part 3 called Jump the Line. And we've covered bottom line and front line. And in this episode, it's all about taking a leap beyond what's comfortable, moving from incremental changes to exponential growth. And I believe that incremental growth is the safety net that many of us cling to, but it's a trap. Real transformation, the kind that fundamentally rewrites who you are, demands that you go beyond baby steps and make bold, decisive moves. So in full disclosure, this one's going to feel challenging, but I'm not here to make you comfortable. We're going to explore what it takes to jump the line, to make leaps that will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. You've heard me say this before, but I'm deeply invested in your growth and your success, and I need you to be just as invested, which is why this episode is so important. So today we're leaving behind incremental change and we're diving into what it means to make a quantum leap, a shift that doesn't just move you forward, but fundamentally redefines what's possible for you. Remember when we talked about other people's standards back in the bottom line? Those are the standards that taught you to play it safe. Society tells you to move towards goals one cautious step at a time, checking all the boxes to make sure that you're staying within the lines. But here's the thing, those lines were drawn by people who didn't see what you're capable of. By playing it safe, you're not just playing by their rules, you're playing small. And that's where 2x growth comes in. Incremental changes might get you a little further down the same path, but you're still on the same path. It's comfortable because it doesn't require you to fundamentally change. It only requires a little more effort. But to me, that sounds like a slog. That's why you may find yourself stuck, wondering why this journey doesn't feel as exciting as you thought it should. Now, quantum leaps, or what I call 10x and what Benjamin Hardy and Grant Cardone and a lot of other people call 10x, are the antidote to that slow incremental drag. Taking quantum leaps doesn't just speed things up, it forces you to become someone entirely new. And that's why it's efficient. It demands you to step into a bigger version of yourself. When you jump the line, it demands you to step into a bigger version of yourself. Now, when you jump the line, you bypass all the small, safe steps that others expect and redefine the journey on your own terms. So, where are you currently clinging to that 2x zone? Thinking that you need to inch your way forward? Is it because that's all you've ever been taught? Think about it. If you're ready to break free from those outdated standards, it's time to jump the line. You don't have to drag along the baggage of incremental change. You're here to make a leap that forces you to evolve. And here's the truth. You can't make a quantum leap with an outdated version of yourself. Reinvention at this level requires an intimate understanding of who you are at your core. Self-mastery means knowing your patterns, your triggers, and the parts of you that resist change. Because without self-intimacy, you'll keep collapsing back into old versions of yourself, no matter how bold your vision is. Self-mastery isn't about surface level tweaks. It's about peeling back every layer until you get to the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. It's about recognizing that the version of yourself capable of making a 2x change is not the one who will get you to a 10x. And this process is messy. It's confronting. It requires shedding parts of you that may have served you in the past, but only hold you back now. To jump the line, you have to know yourself better than anyone else does. Because if you're not fully intimate with how you operate, you'll be sabotaging yourself without even realizing it. When I talk about total reinvention, I mean shedding old identities and beliefs that keep you tethered to the past. It's about being brutally honest with yourself about what you've been avoiding. You've got to ask, what part of me is afraid of stepping into the unknown? What am I clinging to for comfort or safety? And then you let it go. This is exactly why I created the Reinvention Roadmap. It's designed to guide you through this process, not just at a surface level, but to the deepest layers of your identity. This is where the real work begins. When you start examining your tendencies and patterns with the kind of intensity that feels almost uncomfortable. Total mastery requires you to hold up a mirror and see yourself with all the flaws, all the contradictions. It's about making peace with your strengths and weaknesses alike and understanding how each one plays into the choices that you make. If you're not willing to dive this deep, you're going to keep setting bold visions and watching them fall apart. Why? Because your subconscious will force a collapse. It will sabotage you every time you try to break free, pulling you back into familiar territory. You've probably felt this before. Like, how many times have you been on the brink of something huge only to pull back? That's what happens when you don't have mastery over yourself. The parts of you that you don't want to face will always win. So ask yourself, are you willing to be fully intimate with how you operate? Are you willing to go deeper than you've ever done before? Because self-mastery isn't for the faint-hearted. It's for those who are willing to rip off the mask and face themselves. To truly jump the line, you need to become someone who's not just ready for growth, but who demands it from herself at every level. Self-mastery is a gateway to quantum leaps. It's the difference between a life of incremental improvements and one of radical transformation. When you get to this level of self-awareness, you stop living on autopilot. You're no longer held back by old habits or outdated beliefs. You're free to create from a place of pure possibility because you know exactly who you are and you're not afraid to demand more from yourself. So, are you ready to stop playing small and step into the most powerful version of yourself? If you are, the leap is waiting. Now, to make the quantum leap, you can't just carry everything with you. The truth is, 80% of what you're holding onto is dragging you back into that 2x loop. And if you keep dragging your old baggage into the future, you're going to feel like you're fighting uphill. It's like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. So if you're trying to create a 10x life, you've got to start operating from a 10x mindset. And that means letting go of old, outdated ways of being. Benjamin Hardy in 10x is easier than 2x talks about how holding on to your old ways forces you into this relentless slog where you're constantly working hard but seeing only incremental results. He says that 2x growth feels like a grind because you're still holding on to 80% of the things that no longer align with who you need to become. Think about it. How many things are you holding on to because they're familiar? How often do you keep old habits, routines, and even relationships around simply because they're comfortable, not because they're empowering? Freedom isn't about adding more to your life. It's about stripping away everything that doesn't propel you forward. It's not about abandoning your past or pretending that it didn't happen. The trick is to extract the wisdom from your experiences, not the attachments. Take the lessons, leave the weight. That's where you begin to gain clarity and freedom to make those exponential leaps. If you're carrying emotional baggage or outdated beliefs or old self-concepts, you're bringing dead weight into your future. You don't need to carry every detail. You need to carry the insights and use them as fuel for your next move. So here's a practical exercise for you. I want you to make a list of everything you're still carrying with you. The beliefs, the habits, the environments, the relationships, what are they? And then ask yourself, is this in alignment with my 10x vision? If it's not, it's time to let it go. Because the energy that you're spending carrying the past could be the exact energy you need to make that leap. And I want to just make the point here that in the last episode, we talked about really setting your true north or having your North Star to guide you by. The reason that was so important before we got here is you don't know what to let go of if you don't know where you're going and who you're trying to become, right? That North Star continues to be the filter that allows you to adjust in these moments. And the process isn't just about letting go. It's about recalibrating your bottom line. Every time you choose to release something that no longer serves your future self, you're setting a new standard. This is where your bottom line gets to rise again and again as you declare things that you're no longer willing to tolerate. It's the reinvention of your standards and the shedding of the outdated parts of you that simply don't belong in the vision you're creating. In my experience, people cling to the familiar not because it adds value, but because they're unwilling to see how it holds them back. Letting go is a conscious choice. It's saying, I refuse to let my past define my future. And this is also why self-mastery is non-negotiable. It's knowing yourself so deeply that you can discern between what fuels your vision and what keeps you stuck. And that's exactly why I built that reinvention roadmap, to give you the clarity and the framework to rise above, to make those declarations for yourself and to cut through the noise. The roadmap guides you in drawing the line and claiming the power to release so that you can finally step into the identity that matches your bigger vision. This is the way that you prevent the collapse that we've been talking about. Discarding 80% of the old isn't just a task, it's a declaration. It's saying, I'm no longer willing to be weighed down by what no longer serves me. And that's how you jump the line. You make room for the new by shedding the old. So take this step with conviction. This is where freedom lives, not in accumulating, but in letting go. And I firmly believe that this is the only way to stave off an identity collapse in the pursuit of your vision. When you're not fully intimate with your own patterns, you're at the mercy of your subconscious. Your subconscious mind is wired for comfort, not growth, and it will pull you back to what feels familiar every time you stretch. And this isn't about consciously sabotaging yourself. It's about a system operating behind the scenes that will shut down your boldest visions if you're not actively reclaiming control. But here's the thing. True self-mastery isn't just about understanding your patterns on the surface. It's about going deep into the parts of yourself that you'd probably rather ignore. The shadow aspects, the parts that harbor fears, insecurities, and doubts. These are the elements of you that have been protecting you by keeping you small, by sabotaging those bold visions every time they surface. And until you're willing to confront every aspect of yourself, you'll stay trapped in a cycle of vision and collapse, because your subconscious will never let you hold onto a vision it perceives as dangerous. And it's important to recognize that this isn't just a collapse of your vision, it's a collapse of power. Every time you aim for something greater, your identity needs to meet that power head on. Your vision is going to require a version of you that's more expansive, more powerful. And if you're not willing to continually rise and evolve, your current self will simply crumble under the weight. Meeting your edges of power has to become a standard. Otherwise, you stay in the cycle of excitement followed by self-sabotage. And it's not just a collapse of vision, it's the collapse of power, like we said. Every bold move you try to make will be resisted if you haven't integrated these shadow aspects. The parts of you that are reluctant to own, the parts of you that you're reluctant to own will rise up, forcing you back into old ways. And this collapse happens because you're still operating as a fragmented version of yourself. Real transformation requires integration of both your light and shadow. And you're not here to negotiate with your old self. Every time you collapse under your vision, it's a reminder that you haven't yet claimed your full power. And until you do, your subconscious will keep dragging you back. True self-mastery means embracing all parts of yourself, even the aspects you might prefer to keep hidden. When you refuse to integrate your shadow, the parts of you that harbor self-doubt, fear, resentment, you're allowing those elements to lurk in the background, ready to sabotage your progress. Transformation is not about just amplifying your strengths, but acknowledging and integrating your shadow aspects as well. Because without this, you're always playing tug of war with yourself. Think of it this way. If you're only nurturing the light and ignoring the shadow, you're not operating from your whole self. Your shadow holds as much power as your light, and until you integrate it, you're only living from half of your potential. This is why shadow work is integral to self-mastery. When you make peace with all parts of you, you're removing the power of self-sabotage. You're stepping into the kind of awareness that fortifies you against collapse. And this is why I made it the very first micro transformation in the Reinvention roadmap. Because until you do this, it's going to be, like we talked about, it's going to be vision, collapse, and eventually you just abandon the vision because you get tired of that cycle. And this is the point at which you are going to need to make continuously expanding your power a non-negotiable standard. This isn't about growing occasionally or when it's convenient. It's about building the habit of always pushing the edges of your current limits. This is how you truly redefine yourself and align your vision. Your identity will always be required to rise to meet your goals. And without making this a standard, you'll fall back into the old patterns and delay your progress or abandon your vision altogether. So, what's the solution? You need to meet every edge with a commitment to integrating these aspects. Make it a standard to continuously seek out and reconcile both parts of yourself. This is the essence of self-mastery. Not just in celebrating your strengths, but in confronting your shadows and turning them into allies. And until you do, your subconscious will always pull you back, collapsing your power and your vision. In my belief, self-mastery and self-intimacy are foundational for any real identity transformation. And that's why, again, I created the Reinvention roadmap, to guide you through the process of knowing yourself so intimately that no part of you is left unchecked. If you're not willing to do this work, your subconscious will keep you in a loop, collapsing every powerful vision back to what feels safe. And the question isn't whether you can make these leaps, it's whether you're willing to continually rise in your identity to support them. So, you've explored the depths of your identity and examined patterns that keep pulling you back. Now it's time to decide. All of this introspection and self-mastery is meaningless if you don't make a move. So the greatest quantum leaps don't come from thinking about change, they come from deciding to change. This is where theory meets practice. This is where you jump the line. Every quantum leap begins with a single decision. It's the commitment to leave behind the familiar and step fully into the unknown. Right now, I want you to identify the one area where you know you've been holding back. The place where you keep returning to the old identity. What is one bold move that will pull you forward and challenge you to embody the person you know you're capable of being? So here's your power move checklist. Let's break it down. Making a power move isn't about random action. It's about taking strategic, aligned action. And here's your checklist to ensure that your move creates the impact that you desire. First, be crystal clear about what you're leaving behind and why. This isn't just about adding something new. It's about eliminating what's been holding you back. And then you have to make a commitment. So once you decide, there's no turning back. Quantum leaps don't allow for half measures. Then, number 3 is building your confidence, right? Trust that you are more than capable. You've spent this time gaining clarity on your true north and facing your subconscious blocks. Now step into the power that's already yours. And then 4th, take action. Take immediate action that aligns with this new direction. Don't wait for the perfect time because that doesn't exist. Your power move starts now. This moment isn't about telling anyone else or seeking validation. It's about making a silent, powerful promise to yourself. The kind of promise that only you can uphold, no matter who's watching. Start moving like a grand master, thinking 5 steps ahead, anticipating moves that no one else sees coming. This is about cultivating an inner reliance that doesn't require applause or approval. It's your secret contract with yourself to execute with precision and purpose. Now, let's talk about strategy. Quantum leaps aren't impulsive, they're calculated. They come from making bold moves that appear invisible until they're undeniable. I want you to take that powerful promise and lay out your next 5 moves, 5 steps that align with the person you're becoming. Each move should bring you closer to your vision, rooted in deep inner knowing that you're on the right path. Commit to executing these steps strategically, prepared for any counter. This is where true leadership lives. Now, none of this is about succeeding in the move. Like even a move that doesn't end in the results that you're looking for is still a power move, and it still moves you closer to your vision. Now you just have one thing that you know doesn't work. Don't let the results of the action dictate whether or not you take the next move. Before we wrap up this episode, I challenge you to declare in the quiet of your own mind what you're committing to. No one else needs to know because this is for you. This is your power, your path, and your identity to own. Create a plan for how you'll execute these steps and then start moving with purpose. This isn't about anyone else's timeline or validation. It's about mastering your own. So let's wrap this up. Today, we peeled back the layers on what it truly means to make quantum leaps. You've seen how stepping up isn't just incremental growth. It's about rising to meet the power of your own vision and refusing to carry the weight of who you used to be. You've made your silent, powerful declaration to yourself, and now it's time to take decisive, grandmaster moves forward. This isn't the work for the faint-hearted. It's the work for those who are ready to lead themselves and take ownership for their past. Now, next time, we'll be drawing a clear line in the sand. This is where we'll confront the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. It's where you'll see how far you've already come and where you're ready to go. We're going to dive deep into the moments where your ego and your essence collide and where you're forced to make the ultimate choice to stay safe in the known or to step into the unknown of who you could be. And if you're ready to put an end to the habits and beliefs that have kept you tethered, I'll see you next time. This is your journey, and no one can walk it for you. You've declared your commitment, and now it's time to act like the leader you're capable of becoming. So step up, move forward, and prepare to draw your line in the sand.